Think about how a robotic arm operates on a factory floor. It does not simply move because a motor turns. It moves because it knows where it is in space. Sensors constantly feed data back to a central controller, creating a closed loop. The arm checks its position, compares it to the target, and corrects any drift. This is the essence of industrial automation. It is precise, reliable, and built on a foundation of constant feedback. Now consider the human brain attempting to do the same thing with a prosthetic limb. The goal is identical. We want a paralyzed patient to move an object with the same fluidity as a healthy person. But the engineering challenges are vastly different. We are trying to bridge the gap between biological tissue and silicon machinery. This is where Neuralink enters the conversation. Their approach involves an invasive implant, often referred to in research as the telepathy N1 device. Thousands of microscopic electrodes are threaded directly into the motor cortex of the brain. The idea is to capture the electrical signals that would normally travel down the spinal cord to the muscles. By reading these signals with extreme precision, the system can translate a thought into a cursor movement or a robotic hand gesture. This high-bandwidth connection allows for complex tasks like gaming or 3D modeling. It is the closest we have come to a direct neural interface. However, the very thing that makes it powerful also creates significant friction. The brain is living tissue, and it does not like foreign objects. Over time, the body forms scar tissue around the implant, which degrades the signal quality. This means the device must be robust enough to withstand the body's natural immune response while maintaining the fidelity required for fine motor control. Contrast this with the non-invasive alternatives that are emerging from academic research. Projects like MindArm and CognitiveArm utilize electroencephalogram headsets. These devices sit on the scalp and detect electrical activity through the skull. They are significantly safer and far more affordable than surgical implants. You can find some of these systems for around $500, making them accessible to a much wider population. However, the trade-off is immediate and stark. The signal is noisy. The skull acts as a barrier, filtering out much of the high-frequency data that the brain produces. This results in lower precision. A user might be able to open a hand or close a fist, but controlling individual fingers with the dexterity required for daily living is currently beyond the reach of this technology. The signal-to-noise ratio is the primary bottleneck here. Here is the thing that connects these two divergent paths. Despite the differences in hardware, both systems face the same fundamental engineering bottlenecks. Whether the signal comes from a wire in the cortex or a sensor on the scalp, the data must be processed, transmitted, and decoded with minimal latency. If there is a delay between the thought and the action, the closed loop is broken. The user loses the sense of agency. This is why researchers are looking at energy-efficient spiking neural networks. These are computing models designed to mimic the way biological neurons fire. They consume far less power than traditional processors, which is critical for wireless interfaces that need to run on a battery for years without recharging. We are also seeing a shift in how we think about the feedback loop. For a long time, the focus was entirely on output. How do we get the brain to control the machine? The next frontier is input. This is the bidirectional feedback loop. A true restoration of independence requires the patient to feel what the prosthetic feels. Imagine holding a fragile egg. A standard robotic arm might grip it too hard and crush it. A patient with a thought-controlled arm needs to know the pressure is too high. Current research is exploring how to send sensory data back to the brain. This would allow the user to receive a tactile sensation, effectively closing the loop in both directions. It transforms the device from a tool into a part of the body. The path forward is not a single solution. It is a landscape of trade-offs. On one side, you have the high-fidelity, high-risk, invasive implants that offer the best performance but require surgery and face long-term stability issues. On the other side, you have the safe, affordable, non-invasive headsets that struggle with signal clarity and power consumption. The industry is currently searching for a unified standard that balances these factors. We need algorithms that can adapt over time. A static decoder does not work well because the brain changes. The interface must learn the user's specific neural patterns, adjusting to the natural drift in signal quality. This is where continuous learning algorithms come into play. They allow the system to improve its accuracy the more it is used, reducing the need for constant recalibration. There is also the matter of scalability. Clinical-grade solutions aim for seamless restoration of fine motor skills. But to achieve widespread adoption, the technology must be robust enough for home use without constant medical supervision. Early open-source projects using basic sensors demonstrate basic grasp and twist functions, proving the concept works. But clinical-grade solutions aim for the dexterity required for daily living. The difference is in the latency and the bandwidth. As we move toward transformer-based models that can decode movement intentions from multimodal signals, we might see a convergence. These systems combine EEG data with electromyography and inertial measurement units to create a richer picture of the user's intent. Thanks for watching all the way to the end. I am a one-person team working hard to make each video better than the last. Subscribe if you found value. It is the best way to show support. Drop a comment with your biggest takeaway. See you in the next video.